Look, the stories emerging about the flood crisis in New South Wales must surely inspire deep concern amongst all Australians. There are 85,000 people across New South Wales under evacuation orders. The New South Wales Premier said this morning there were currently 108 evacuation orders across the state and 56 evacuation warnings. 85,000 people across New South Wales under evacuation orders. My congratulations and thanks on behalf of all these people to the Albanese government. The Prime Minister this morning announced that payments of $1,000 for adults and $400 for children affected by floods will become available immediately from 2 o'clock tomorrow. And the Education Minister, Jason Clare, has said that families in flood-affected areas will be given financial relief from childcare fees and paid leave. Parents in 23 local government areas that have been declared natural disaster areas will be able to waive gap fees for children not attending care during the emergency, including when the service is closed, and parents will also receive financial support so that they don't use up annual leave during the emergency. The New South Wales government yesterday declared the floods a catastrophe, with residents in 23 local government areas eligible for disaster relief. The federal government is making 150 more Defence Force personnel available to assist with flood recovery efforts from tomorrow. New South Wales Premier Perrottet has warned that river systems right across the state remain full and cautioned that evacuation orders must remain in place. I note that the Premier also said this morning that he was quote-unquote disappointed with the time it took for grants to be received following the Lismore disaster. As you know, I have spoken to the local MP up there, Janelle Saffin, wonderful woman, who tells me that over 60% of applications for relief support had been rejected because of the absence of proper documentation. You will recall I said that dumbbells in the bureaucracy didn't seem to understand that the documentation was washed away in the floods. It is difficult when you're not in the middle of all of this to understand the full extent of flood damage. You might recall that yesterday I warned against climate change alarmists grabbing the chance to blame these weather events on climate change. History tells us that it is the kind of country we are, and it's been going on for 150 years. I repeat, in Gundagai in New South Wales in 1852, 89 people died from the floods and the entire settlement was destroyed. In floods in Melbourne in November 1934, there were 36 deaths, 6,000 homeless, 18 people drowned, 18 were killed by collapsing buildings, 1934. In the Hunter Valley in 1955, around Singleton and Maitland, there were 24 deaths, 59 homes destroyed, 40,000 people evacuated from a total of 40 towns. None of that diminishes the tragedy and trauma that Australians are currently facing. It's just meant to warn the climate change alarmists to simply keep quiet.